Good afternoon, KCAA listeners, and good afternoon and good evening to those listening to us on the live stream link. This is the Kathleen Wells Show. I'm Kathleen, and today I'm delighted to have as my guest USS Liberty and Navy veteran survivor Phil Tourney. Mr. Tourney is a survivor of the June 8th, 1967 deliberate and vicious attack by Israel, which lasted, a little more than 2 hours, almost 2 hours, on the USS Liberty. The USS Liberty is an American ship. He is also the author of the book, What I Saw That Day. I just finished reading that book today, and I highly recommend it. In fact, I think that book should be required reading in history classes throughout American schools. Because why? Because history, what we have learned is that history isn't always, what we are told is history isn't always the accurate history, isn't actually the actual history, isn't always, it can get twisted. And we learn that from what? Oliver Stone's documentary on the untold story of America. We learned that there were pieces missing, or history gets manipulated, or actually it's not even actually told accurately. It's misleading. It's false. So what is the story about the USS Liberty? Do Americans know about this story? Well, Phil Tourney is here to set the record straight. He's going to set the record straight. Why? Because he was there, and that's why his book is titled What I Saw That Day. But before I bring Phil on, let me tell you a little bit about the USS Liberty. The USS Liberty was the most decorated Navy ship since World War II. It received the Presidential Unit Citation and 246 additional medals, including the Medal of Honor to their skipper, Captain William McGonigal. This attack by Israel against this ship that took place 44 years ago, it killed 34 Americans and wounded 174. This was an attempted murder on 294 Americans by a torpedo attack by Israel. There's irrefutable proof that Israel knew that this intelligence ship was a U.S. ship before and during the attack in international waters. Well, welcome, Mr. Tourney, to the Kathleen Wells Show.
Well, Kathleen, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it that you give me the time and the dignity and honor of giving the crew their due, and that is what I'm here for. That's what I'll do till the day I die, is honor my shipmates that had died in vain at the hands of Israel, that were slaughtered in cold blood by the state of Israel and covered up by the United States of America for the last 46 years plus. Kathleen, you mentioned something that was very important at the beginning of your show. When the United States of America was attacked by a foreign government, they just didn't attack the USS Liberty and the souls aboard that ship in international waters, doing exactly what our government had ordered us to do. They attacked all Americans, including you and the babies that are born today. I will always preach that because it's the truth. No one should be allowed to get by with cold-blooded, premeditated murder, even the state of Israel, and have our government covered up for certain reasons, and we will get into that, why those reasons are. But it is a pleasure to be welcomed on your show by your board operator, Brad, a very kind and gentle person that gave me a very nice welcome, and thank you, Kathleen.
You're very, very welcome. And your crew member, Ernie Gallo, was on my show, I think it was July 31st, about a month ago. I loved having him on the show. He inspired me to ask for more USS Liberty survivors on my show because I wasn't that familiar with it. And so now I'm becoming familiar with it, and I want to pursue this a little more and have more crew members, more survivors on my show. In your book, What I Saw That Day, you said that this was a planned murder of nearly 300 Americans. And if it had gone off as planned, would have led to a nuclear war between the USS, between the United States and the Soviet Union. Elaborate on that thought.
I certainly will. That's a very good point, and it's a point that I wanted to bring up in my book that I felt was probably one of the most important points. We know for sure, Kathleen, that two aircraft, nuclear-tipped aircraft, were sent off USS America. The captain of that ship was Captain Engen. And I was supposed to talk to Captain Engen along with another fellow that did Loss of Liberty. It's a documentary with me, Tito Howard, and get the real scoop because he was ready to talk about the whole deal. And suddenly he died the day before the interview in a accident. They say it was an accident with another professional pilot in a glider plane. So you can take that for what it's worth, but the USS Liberty was put in the Mediterranean by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. There was a ship there called the Valdez that could do exactly what we did. It was a civilian ship, but they could pick up messages and send them back to the National Security Agency just as well as we could. But they took that ship out of the area and put the USS Liberty in harm's way to sink it, blame it on Egypt, and the war would be on. They would nuke Cairo and possibly got us in a World War III. And I say possibly. I don't know what the Russians would have done. I really don't know what they would have done, but I don't think they would have stood by and let it happen, and it would have been catastrophic. Just as Vladimir Putin has said in the last day or two, an attack on Syria at this point would be catastrophic. Now, what does Putin mean by this? I have no idea, but catastrophic is a very determined and personal word that I think the United States of America should take heed.
Mm-hmm. In fact, news reports indicate that President Obama may send in a surgical strike. I don't know why they call it surgical, because there is collateral damage into Syria. So we're still heading down this same primrose path. Is that the right description? I don't know if it's a primrose path, but we're still headed down this dark tunnel. We're still headed down this abyss that started June 8th, 1967. Would you agree with that?
I agree with you totally, Kathleen. You hit the nail right on the head. If the USS Liberty goes down, there's certainly going to be repercussions, because they're going to blame it on the Arabs, and the United States of America, the citizens would be foaming at the mouth, demanding blood from the Arabs, and certainly that would have happened. Fortunately, by the grace of God and the seamanship of our crew, and I'll put it in God's hands, that saved us that day from a catastrophe that could affect us and still would have affected us to this day. Now, the 67 war, Kathleen, was nothing but a land grab for Israel. They had defeated the Arab states, including Cairo, on the ground within a day or two. They had nothing to fight back with. The war was essentially over. And why we were put there in international waters to do what we were told to do is pick signals out of the sky. And we were the most sophisticated intelligence gathering ship platform in the world at that time in 1967. In fact, Kathleen, we were so sophisticated we could bounce messages off the moon back to the National Security Agency within seconds. So if we could do that in 1967, can you imagine what we can do now? It is just an unbelievable leap forward. And I don't know if it's a good leap forward or a bad leap forward. With all this intelligence, is it getting mixed up? Are we being false flagged? Is Syria really being gassed by their own government? I don't know. Is somebody else doing it to get the United States into a war with Syria? My God, we just fought 2 wars and still fighting one with Afghanistan because of George Bush said that Saddam Hussein had nuclear weapons of mass destruction. I don't know. Nuclear mass destruction can mean a lot of things, but when gas is involved, that's mass destruction. There's no doubt. There were no facts that supported that. And one of my favorite generals in the whole world, besides Admiral Thomas More and Arleigh Burke and many others, but of course was Colin Powell, because he came up as a black American and rose to the highest ranks and became the head of the State Department. And he lied to America. He lied to me. He lied to you. He lied to the UN. And he lied to his fellow Americans, as well as George Bush did.
And in fact, when you
proof that there was weapons of mass destruction and in Iraq, and we needed to go get them.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, he also dismissed you, given some of the letters that you sent off to all the members of Congress and all the members of the Senate, and President George Herbert Walker Bush and Colin Powell. I mean, you've tried to contact everyone regarding this incident in politics to no avail.
Absolutely. We have been cut short. We have been cut off by our elected officials because their position is this case is closed. It was a mistaken identity. And Kathleen, to be honest with you, their allegiance is not the United States of America. Now, when they took an oath, as I did as a young sailor, and many of my brethren, we took an oath, the oath to protect this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And the president from Johnson and on, and many others before, took the same oath. But they disrespected that oath. They did not protect us from all enemies, foreign and domestic. They take their orders from Tel Aviv. They take it from the ADL. They take it from AIPAC, they take it from ICE, and they take it from Benjamin Netanyahu. That's who controls the government of the United States. That's who controls what happens in our policy towards other countries, and that's why we're hated around the world. We are the most giving, loving people in the world. We are. But why are we in so many wars? I was born in 46, and look how many wars that I've been through since 1946. It's unbelievable. We're always at war. And why are we fighting the Arabs? The Arabs didn't do anything to us. What happened was Truman gave away land to Israel in 1948. Many people told him not to. Marshall, Forrestal, his chief of staff, everybody said, don't do it, do it somewhere else. And this is where we're at, in continued conflict, war, and pain and suffering. And I must say, the pain and suffering for the Palestinian people is overwhelming, and it is heartbreaking, and it is something that, as an American, I hate to support with my tax money, seeing little children being killed, blinded, and maimed by the state of Israel, all for the sake of a land grab, and they're still taking it.
So I want to say that Phil Tourney, just as Ernie Gallo, these two gentlemen aren't talking off the cuff or cavalierly. They were actually on the ship, the USS Liberty. They lived it, and they're here to tell the story, both Phil Tourney and Ernie Gallo. And if you get Phil Tourney's book, What I Saw That Day, he has pictures in the book. It's a picture book too. No, but also you can see the hole in the ship that was caused by the Israeli torpedo. Wasn't it a torpedo attack?
Yes, ma'am. There were 3 torpedo boats that shot approximately 5 torpedoes at us. One of them hit the starboard side and blew approximately a 40 by 40 foot hole in the starboard side, which instantly killed 25 Americans and Marines in the communication spaces, which was the heart of the ship, and that was what kept us out there, was to make sure that these men could do their duty for the United States of America. And the most disgusting part of this is the torpedo gunmen would shoot at our firefighters and stretcher bearers. We only had 3 life rafts left out of for a crew of 294. They were all destroyed, include the captain's gig and the whale boat. They were all gone. There was only 3 left. In fact, I cut one of them off myself. It inflated, and as soon as it was inflated, it was shot out of the water by the Israelis. We were going to put our most seriously wounded in them, which there were so many, we could have never got them in those boats, but we were going to try. And they took one of the boats aboard their ship. Those were war crimes. And they did this to their allies. In fact, we paid for their bullets. We paid for those torpedo boats. We paid for their pay. We paid for everything. And they murdered their American friends on the high seas. Can you imagine shooting at life rafts at men in distress that had no way to defend themselves? It is one of the worst war crimes in history. And you remember, Kathleen, during World War II or after World War II, they went after the Nazis as fast and hard as they could with the Nuremberg trials, and they're still going after them. Now, how come Israel can get by with cold-blooded, premeditated murder on Americans on the high seas, and the Nazis can't? And I'm not saying they're supposed to. They should be put in jail or put to death for what they did. And I don't disagree with that. When you murder somebody, you pay the consequences. But Israel has never paid the consequences, and he never fessed up. They say they paid the crew damages. You know what the average sailor aboard that ship got? A couple $100, and that's it. And we were told to shut our mouths for the rest of our lives, or we will end up in prison or worse. And that was told to me directly by Isaac Kidd, who was the convening authority aboard the USS Liberty. And as you read in my book, Captain Ward Boston refuted that and said it was all a big lie, and that and Captain Boston was a very distinguished lawyer, and he did come out with the truth finally at the end of his life, and thank God for him, as well as we had Thomas Moore, the former Joint Chiefs of Staff. We never can forget about the great Arleigh Burke with the Arleigh Burke class destroyers, which are still in service today. All these gentlemen, all these great admirals have stuck up for the USS Liberty, but our government will not stick up for them because they are bought and paid for by the state of Israel. If they want to stay in office, they have to abide by the rules of Israel, and that's the fact. Now, I'm not making this up, Kathleen. It is a fact. They go by what ADL wants. Look at the President of the United States. He got 29 standing ovations. 29 standing ovations. Excuse me, I was talking about Benjamin Netanyahu.
Right.
29 standing ovations at the White House or in Congress. The president doesn't even get that, and look what he gets it for killing Americans, for holding almost 2 million people in a concentration camp. Is this what America stands for? Is this what our fathers fought for? Is this what my father fought for? You know, it is ridiculous, and the truth has got to come out if this country's going to survive. And I believe the truth about the USS Liberty will set us free from the grip of the Zionist state of Israel. The Zionist state of Israel has got plenty of weapons. They've got plenty of money. They don't need America. If they want to go it on their own, let it go it on their own. But don't drag America to any more wars or have any more of our young men and women killed or maimed, all for the state of Israel. It's despicable, it's disgusting, and it isn't American. It isn't what our forefathers wanted. I guarantee you that.
Well, I want to go back to the actual incident, because your book is very detailed, and you talk about when the lifeboats were being shot up by the Israelis. You said you only had 3 left, and I remember you said in the book that you looked the guy directly in the eye, and you gave him a finger, and he had a smirk and gave you a finger back. Do you remember writing that? Well, it happened to you.
Absolutely, and who that was a helicopter that came over to finish the job. They had manned commandos in the cockpit and in the main part of the helicopter to come aboard, scuttle the ship, kill us all, and still blame it on the Arabs, and so the job would have been done. So they used jet aircraft, unmarked. We didn't know who was killing us, and they brought back the aircraft when they didn't even know who was attacking us. They left us out there alone. So that tells you right away we were set up by our government to be killed and blame it on foreign state. They sent torpedo boats to do what they did. Our ship had over 850 cannon rocket holes, over 5,000 armor-piercing bullets, napalm burning it up, a 40 by 40 foot torpedo hole in our side, the torpedo gunmen shooting at our firefighters and stretcher bearers, and our only 3 lifeboats. They were going to put our most seriously wounded in. What kind of human beings will do that to their supposed best friends and allies, and we're giving them $11 million a day as we speak right now? Do you think they deserve $11 million a day to keep people in concentration camps and murder Americans on the high seas? I doubt that.
Mm-hmm. And you even said, you wrote also that the president at the time, Johnson, ordered your rescue mission to turn back, the Navy rescue operation.
That's absolutely correct. First of all, LBJ was the last person on the phone. The first person was McNamara, and then Johnson got on the phone, and he says, I don't give a GD if every man aboard that ship dies. I'm not going to embarrass my allies, Israel. Now, if we didn't know who was attacking us, how did LBJ and the rest of these flunkies know who was attacking us? Not only that, guess who was in charge of the cover-up? Our favorite senator, his father, John McCain, father was in charge of the cover-up. And it was done, the cover-up was done in 7 days. The Board of Inquiry was locked up and done in 7 days. They never even interviewed an Israeli pilot. They never even, they redacted statements from Lloyd Painter, a former officer aboard the USS Liberty. May I say, a very gallant officer aboard the USS Liberty that deserves many accolades for his service to his country, as most men aboard the USS Liberty. And many were left out, and many got what they shouldn't have. And I don't know if that has anything to do with this conversation, but that's just the way politics work, and it works that way aboard. It works that way aboard ships too. So I've devoted my life to this, and I've been threatened with death. They've taken lug nuts off my vehicles. I get phone calls all the time, tell me I better shut up. They call me a Nazi, a Jew hater. Listen, I didn't kill anybody. They did all the killing. Israel did all the killing. I didn't do any of the killing. They did. All I'm doing is telling the truth. And so if they want to call me a Nazi or a Jew hater, that's all well and good, but I'm not. I'm not. And so I just want the truth out. If the truth brings out exactly what I've been saying, and we also have a $10,000 reward, Kathleen. The USS Liberty Veterans Association has a reward if anybody on this planet can disprove any crew member of the USS Liberty that we're lying, you're going to get a $10,000 bill and $100 bills or however you want it. So anybody out there that thinks that we're liars, prove it. Get us in front of Congress. Let the survivors speak, which they've never done. I was at the State Department.
We're going to take a break now, but when we come back,
I was supposed to speak.
But we're going to take a break now. But when we come back from the break, I want to talk about the fact that Crystal wrote a book refuting your story, and also the State Department held a panel meeting supporting Crystal's book. So we're going to talk about that. Also, I want to open up the phone lines. How do you feel about taking questions, Phil?
Oh, no problem. I'd be glad to, Kathleen, and I'll answer anything I can as directly and honestly as my physical body will let me do.
Sounds wonderful. So I want to open up the phone lines. If there are any listeners out there that have questions for Phil Tourney, who is a USS Liberty survivor, this is a rare opportunity to ask them a specific question. So that phone number is 888-909-1050. When we come back from the break, we'll take phone calls, and also we'll talk about the book that Crystal wrote, refuting everything you said, and the State Department supporting that book. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Kathleen Wells Show. My guest today is USS Liberty survivor Phil Tourney. I mean, it's a fabulous story. It's not been told enough to the American people. The American people must know what happened to the USS Liberty, the deliberate attack by Israel against the USS Liberty, an American ship on June 8th, 1967. Now we're going to take a phone call. Hi, Ted. We have a call from Ted Aaron. Hello, Ted.
Hi, Kathleen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Phil, you there?
I am, Ted. Good afternoon, and thanks for calling in, dear friend. I appreciate it.
I got a question. And this is something, when I read your book, it's a great book. You did a great job. The more I think about the Liberty attack, the more I think it should be separated into what Israel did that day and what America did. And the more I think about it, Israel did what it did for the sake of the welfare, what they thought was Israel, even if it included murdering Americans. What America did, I think, Phil, is unforgivable because they abandoned you during the attack, and I think they slowed down coming to your aid. And then with the ship at the 40-foot hole in it and the 15-degree list, they send you away 7 days to Crete to get it fixed, and I bet you they were hoping it would sink in the Mediterranean instead of the 1.5 days, or they send you to Malta instead of the 1.5 days to Crete. I find it unforgivable what they did to you guys, and then they threaten you with jail. It's unforgivable what the American government did.
Well, Ted, I certainly agree with you, and we could have gotten into Crete. They had the facilities for us, and to send us from June 9th to the 14th of June to Malta is, in my view, also unforgivable. They wanted the ship to sink, in my view, and why it stayed afloat, I don't know. There's so many different things that could have happened, but it didn't. And thank God we're here to tell the truth. And, I wouldn't get on the phone or anywhere else and talk about this story if it wasn't the truth. There's no way I wouldn't do it. Ernie Galley wouldn't do it. By the way, Ernie's got a book coming out, a new one. But I wouldn't do it. None of the survivors would do it. What do we have to gain? We have nothing to gain, but we want the truth before we die. They're just waiting for us to die out, and you know what happens then? There's not going to be a whole lot of people to take our place. But I would hope that the American people, if they could just get the truth about the USS Liberty, that we would break ties with Israel and let them be on their own. And that's one of the reasons I wrote the book. And I need to get this book sold. If you'd go to 888-698-8706. 888-698-8706. The publisher says that the book has got slow response because of bad publicity, and I know where that's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But folks, Ted wrote it. I mean, read the book, and Kathleen and many others, and I've gotten very many good reviews. And so, if you want to get the truth, get the book and help the USS Liberty, and remind Paul that you heard it on this radio show, and you certainly get a discount. And I appreciate that very much. But Ted, you're certainly right, and I respect you deeply for all you've done for the USS Liberty. And we've gone through the VFW, the American Legion, and we keep on going forward. And there's nothing that's going to stop us. By the way, folks, Ted is a decorated Vietnam veteran who served his country honorably, and thank you for that, Ted. I respect it very much.
Okay, thank you, Ted.
Right.
Let's see. So
all right,
thank you, Ted. What is the number again?
888-698-8706, and it's Life and Liberty Publishing. And like I say, I need to get this book sold. There's a big conference coming up, and the Zionist or somebody's holding it up somehow. It's not producing like it should or has been. So I don't know what's going on, but if your listeners would buy the book, they'll certainly get a discount, because I want to get it off the shelf, because I have other interesting things I want to put into it that mean very much, from Captain Tully and many others. So in a new edition, that's what I'm looking for, Kathleen.
Okay, well, I read the book. I love the book. It's very informative. I recommend it highly. So the book is called What I Saw That Day by Phil Tourney. I recommend it highly. Okay, let's take another call from Mr. Curry. Hi, Mr. Curry.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you just fine.
I can't hear him very well.
Okay, I'll repeat the question.
Okay.
Phil? As an American citizen, I would like to thank you for your courage, for your service, heroism, and sacrifice, and your persistence for advocacy for your buddies of U.S. Liberty. You will never be forgotten. Would you elaborate? Isn't it treasonous that McNamara and Johnson attempted to cover up this heinous crime against American servicemen? And did Congressman McCloskey found out that an Israeli pilot, the first Israeli pilot who went over the ship, did a flyby, identified the ship, the U.S. Liberty, as an American ship, and he reported that to his quarters. Isn't that also crime against humanity, against American citizens and the service on liberty? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Curry. I'll repeat it because I don't think you heard it. First, he wants to thank you. Mr. Curry would like to thank you for your courage and persistence on this issue, and he says you'll never be forgotten. And he also wants you to comment on the cover-up that McNamara and President Johnson conducted. Elaborate on that cover-up, and also the fact that Congressman McCloskey said that the pilot that flew over your ship knew that it was an American ship. Those two issues.
Oh, okay, I'll start with the last one first. Our ship was reconned for approximately 6 to 8 hours. We had conversations with the pilots. I did not personally, but of course our ship was capable of listening and getting information back and forth. Our ship was positively identified as American and friendly by the state of Israel. In international waters, they put us on their war table and knew we were there, and suddenly at 2 o'clock, Kathleen, they took us off their war table and forgot we were there. We were no longer there in the Med just because they took us off of their war table. And talking about treason and war crimes, if there is any treason or high treason, it could not fall on any shoulders more than it does Lyndon Baines Johnson, McNamara and the admiral that oversaw the cover-up, which is John McCain's father. He was the head man, and he made sure the cover-up was taken care of in 7 days. Now, to leave your sailors, your men, you're always told you never leave nobody behind. Well, they left us behind. They left 294 souls, Americans, sailors, Marines, and CIA people. They did that. We were set up to die and blame it on another country, and that's just the way it was. And that's what's going on now. I'm extremely worried about Syria and what can follow through with that. Getting Lebanon involved, and especially Israel, and then you got Iran. So I beg you, Mr. President, please think this out very thoroughly, because President Putin, I think, will not hesitate to help his allies if the United States of America decides to go in and fight a sovereign government. That is not the job of the United States of America. That is the job of the UN. The United States of America cannot police the world. We cannot fight every war for the world.
We're not fighting it for the world. We're fighting it for Israel.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head again. We're fighting it for Israel. That's what they want. They want us at war. They want us in constant war, especially in the Middle East. And, what they wanted in 1967 was a big land grab. They didn't get all they wanted because we didn't sink. If our ship would have sunk, they would have had the biggest land grab in history. They would have owned all the Middle East and all the oil. And that's what it was all about. But they didn't care about us. All they cared about was the land grab. And they figured out how to do it. Sink an American ship, and the American people would demand blood. And believe me, they had been out in the streets demanding blood, and they would have got blood. Rivers and rivers of blood would have been spilled in 1967. But our ship not sinking, in my view, stopped World War III.
Well, the thing of it is that most of the American people, you see, the policies that come out of the United States government are policies, at least with regards to our foreign policy in the Middle East. Those foreign policies favor Israel because why? She's our only ally in the Middle East. This is what we're being told. And she's the only she's not the only ally. I say she's the only democracy in the Middle East. That's what they say.
Well, if being a democracy is holding people in a concentration camp and they're on their own property and pulling up their trees and bulldozing their homes and putting their homes on there and saying, now it's my property now, that's not a democracy. That isn't even close to democracy. That is nothing more than a tyrannical state that has gone wild, and they have, look how much, Kathleen, it's just unbelievable. Look how much they have come since 1948, how far they've come. They've got some of the most sophisticated weaponry in the world. They have all the nuclear weapons they could ever possibly use. They can blow up the world. So people don't think that they can't. It's not poor little Israel anymore.
They're the fourth largest military in the world, the fourth largest.
Absolutely. Can you imagine, since 1948, the fourth largest in the world is unbelievable, and they will use that. But they want the United States to go in first, and then the cover will hopefully not come from Israel, because if Israel gets involved, this could be the last war the United States of America will ever see, or the world, because I don't think, I can't speak for any other countries, but I don't think the other countries in that part of the world are going to stand for it. They're going to stand their ground and say, this is it, we're done. We're not going to go for it anymore. So that's my view, and It's been my view for years, and that's one of the reasons I wrote the book. Well, I just wanted to get the truth out. And like I say, there's a $10,000 reward if anybody thinks that we're lying, or anybody that is associated with the USS Liberty Veterans Association. Prove us wrong. And I did want to say one more thing about the USS Liberty. My good friend John Gadusco was a former lieutenant aboard the USS Liberty. He was an intelligence officer. Unfortunately, he got off the ship just before our ship got attacked. That was the last cruise we made. Go to tinyurl.com/USS Liberty. tinyurl tinyurl.com/USS Liberty. You'll find out everything you want to know about the USS Liberty and related items from Mr. John Gadusco, a great man, a great officer, and a dear friend.
Also, you know what I want to say is that what is ironic is that in June 8, 1967, the day that you were attacked, the day that the U.S. Liberty attacked, the following day, Israel attacked Syria.
Absolutely.
Did you know? Yeah, the following day they attacked Syria. Yeah, so now here we are again. Now we're getting ready to attack Syria. Isn't that ironic?
It is ironic, and it's even more death-defying than it was 46-plus years ago. Do you think, Kathleen, that the Arabs hate Americans now? Wait till the first cruise missile or the first warplane that flies over a starving countries and drops bombs on them. I don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to retaliate with terrorism in the United States? Are they going to retaliate with whatever weapons they have? They're not going to just lay down. They're going to fight. So, yeah, we're in a terrible, terrible position, Kathleen, and all because the state of Israel wants that. They love this type of stuff. I mean, they're handing out gas masks in Tel Aviv and in Israel, getting people all worked up and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And I hope cooler heads prevail, because if they don't, we're in deep, deep, deep trouble. And
well, I mean, if history is any judge, I don't think so. How arrogant to attack an American ship and get off scot-free. Can you imagine? That arrogance and to be able to achieve that feat lets you know there's nothing they will not do.
Well, absolutely. And our Congress and our presidents and our Joint Chiefs of Staff and our people in very prominent positions, the State Department, Department of Defense, they all know this. They all know the truth. They all know it was a setup. They all know that Israel got by with war crimes. They all know that they murdered 34 Americans on the high seas and wounded 174 others, which many of them have died from the wounds that are not with us anymore. So how many people did they kill?
Well, but this goes back to the question that the first caller, Ted Aaron, raised. What does it say about us Americans? Let's take the focus off Israel. They're going to do what they're going to do for their self-interest. But what does it say about Americans that we allow this kind of thing to take place, that we allow this kind of condition to exist, that we allow American soldiers to fight wars for another entity, foreign entity? It says more about us than it does about them. Don't you think?
Absolutely it does. But it says the John Hagees of the world that have been doing this for years, and the Zionist Christian churches, that Israel is more important than your son or your daughter or your loved one, that Israel comes first. And that is exactly what the ADL, AIPAC, and every person that has anything to do with the marketing of Israel is that they want us in war and our country country falls flat on its back, and its citizens do, because they don't know the truth. I wish they knew that. If they knew the truth about the Liberty, I think this would be over. I really do, in a heartbeat. But they don't, because it was covered up so well. And so they believe, the American people believes that no other country comes before Israel, and our sons and daughters have paid a heavy, heavy toll in Iraq and Afghanistan aboard USS Liberty. And who else knows about what you and I don't know about what they've done?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's the very tip. But
yeah, just the tip.
I just wish, that God's grace would come on this country and keep us completely out of Israel's doings and their shenanigans, going back to the Levant affair, where they dressed up as Arabs and tried to fool people as that they were somebody they were not, and start another conflict. And they got caught at it. They get caught at many things. Look at Jonathan Pollard, one of the most evil men that ever drew a breath on this earth, and has done more damage to the United States of America with his spying. And he's getting all this money, $5,000 a month, put in a savings account, because he'll get out of jail, and he'll live like a king till the day he dies, all for the sake of Israel. And they give the crew of the USS Liberty about $200 apiece, and it isn't about money for me. It never has been. Just like my book, when I get my books, I ask for nothing. I send them out. I pay for them myself. But the publisher sends them to me on the presumption of sales. So that's why I want to keep on sending out books free. I don't want the money. I never did. I didn't write the book for money. So go
I would have no problem putting your book on my website, except my web designer. If my web designer is listening, please get my book, the Phil Tourney's book, on my website. He does it.
I appreciate that very, very much. And again, it just call 888-698-8706. Say you heard it on Kathleen's show, and believe me, you'll get a discount, because this book has got to continue. And it is a labor of heartbreak and love for me, but it's the truth. And if you can't handle the truth, there's something wrong with our lifestyle in America. And again,
well, Americans can't handle the truth, and many Americans, listen, the biggest supporters of Israel are Christian Zionists in America.
Right. The Hagis of the world. We just talked about that.
Right.
And right around here in this small town, they send money to Israel on a daily basis. Just as soon as you get to church, part of that money goes straight to Israel. They don't need our money. They're one of the richest countries on earth.
Because
they don't need
believe
our money. They cry poor all the time, but they're not poor. They have plenty of money. They sell condominiums on the Mediterranean, one bedrooms for $750, $1 million, high rises. Now, who's buying these? Who helped build them? The United States of America. Who built those concentration camps for these poor, suffering people that the Israeli settlers will throw dirty diapers in their wells, urinate in them, throw trash in them, do everything they can to make their life miserable. And so, and we talked about 5 broken cameras, which everybody should see. And it just, I wish I had a solution, but I guess the solution is, in my view, is to educate the American public, and that's what books, that's what shows like yours do, that's what radio shows like mine do, and others. And
also mention your radio show so people can tune in.
It's called Your Voice Counts, and it's on republicbroadcasting.org, republicbroadcasting.org, every Sunday at 12 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, which would be 1 o'clock Central Time. And we have some of the most wonderful guests on there that you could ever believe. Just great people and knowledgeable people from the FBI, CIA, senators, congressmen, you name it. We've had them on there, and they all agree if something isn't done soon, we are certainly going to reap what we've sown, and it is it's a warning. We have to take care of America first, and the rest of the world can take care of themselves.
Okay, well, I want to
get back on their feet.
I want to thank you. I'm going to have you on again. I'll also have Ernie Gallo on again because I think people need this information. I want to thank you for being on my show. That number to buy his book is 1-888-698-706. No, I didn't say the number again.
It is 888-698-8706.
8706. 888-698-8706 to buy Phil's book. I encourage everyone to buy it. Thank you very much for being a guest on my show. I'll have you on again, okay?
Thank you, Kathleen. God bless you, and God bless America.
Bye-bye.